You're listening to FAMcast, the For All Manakind podcast, with your hosts, the competitive spirit, Trey Simpson, our own devil's advocate, Tim Weber, and the hopelessly optimistic Trevor Jorgensen. This is FAMcast.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to FAMcast. This is episode 90. Resident Evil Village came out just a few days ago, but here we are. We have it fully beaten. I guess I shouldn't say fully. I guess we haven't done all the little things, but we have it beaten nonetheless. Some of us on easier difficulties than others. I won't say who. You know who you are. It was me. I played on casual. So we need to talk about some things because it's only been out for a couple days. There are some people that, still haven't beat it. So just to get it out of the way right here, we're going to be talking about spoilers. So if you haven't beat it yet and you don't want spoilers, save this one for later because it's still stuff you're going to want to hear once you beat it, because you're going to have some questions just like we did, I'm sure. But with that, Tim, you're the RE master. You're our Resident Evil guru. What did you think going into this game, and how do you feel now that you have beat it? Let's start there.
So, as I said several times during all our podcasts, all the things we've done, I was excited for the game, but I was really fearful of the direction it was going. 7 was so good, and I saw this and everything coming up with us getting werewolves and vampire lady things, and I'm just like, what's happening? What they're either really stretching, not coming up with their own idea. I was very fearful, right? I was hopeful, but I was fearful. After completing it, I can very easily say I am satisfied, at least at what I've seen so far. Capcom has done really, really well. 7 was great, and I think this, at least story-wise, is on par, if not a little bit better, just because of how well. Not only do we get connections to 7 and how it connects, we get a few tidbits of connections to the series as a whole, which to me was super nice.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. I know I'm not as much of a super fan as you, because I haven't played all the games, but I've always been really fascinated with the story. I think it is just a really cool, I guess, just story throughout the past 20 years that, this franchise has been around. 20 or 25?
I think 25. I think
it is 25 this year.
Anniversary. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 25 because I think it was 1996 was OG Resident Evil.
Yep, that makes sense. But even as a novice Resident Evil player, seeing those connections that we'll dive deeper into was really exciting. It's kind of this giant climax, right? That you start out with 7 with so many questions, and you start off with Village, so Resident Evil 8 Village. We'll keep those interchangeable just for the sake of having this make sense. Right. But I feel like you're kind of in the dark for the majority of the game. You get little tidbits throughout, but you still don't know the overall direction until that big turning point with the big boss fight, which again we can dive into later. But yeah, me personally, I think I would consider this better than 7, or at least I enjoyed it more. I think 7 was a great testing ground. They tried a lot of things that were brand new, right? It was a completely different environment, down in Louisiana, with a completely different cast of characters. Other than Chris's cameo at the end, no real connection to the other games, and it was all in first person. So it was just so different than the others. But I kind of like what you were saying, Village really ties it all together and makes this all cohesive. I feel like we're kind of back home now. We've told,
at least
we've told the story of Ethan Winters, which has helped kind of expand the Resident Evil universe in a way.
Right.
So I've kind of rambled a bit here. I'll kick it over to you, Tim. So story wise, what what implications to the Resident Evil franchise does Village have? And feel free to go into, any spoilers. We've already given the disclaimer, so go wild.
So my favorite piece from the game, easily, hands down, is the letter from Spencer to Miranda, right? Which that letter has to date, and I was kind of looking at some things. I mean, it has to date in like the 1960s, something like that. I mean, it's an old letter, because even it talks about how it's been 15 years since Spencer worked with Miranda, right? So that paper to me was super important for a few things. One, it means how do you say that? I always have the worst time saying it. Was it mesamites? Am I even close? How do you know how to say it?
Megamycite, I think.
Megamycite, whatever. The new thing predates the T virus and everything by quite a bit, right? So so Spencer talked to her, was working under her, it almost sounds like, or at least as a student learning from her, right? Because Miranda has been around for a very long time, at least into the 1800s, from what I've gathered information-wise, if not longer. Yeah,
to give you a little, I guess maybe a little more context. So her daughter died of, and maybe we're diving too far into it. Maybe we need to back up a bit and give people some context. So Miranda's daughter died of the Spanish flu, which that pandemic took place in 1918.
Right. Okay.
So we know her daughter's at least dead around that time. So maybe let's say 1920s at the latest.
Right. So basically, Mother Miranda, her daughter died, and she was basically willing to do anything to get her back, right? Which led her to find the
Megamycite.
Megamycite. I'm never going to pronounce it right, just so you know. It's one of those things. Megamycite. So that's what led her to find this basically Megamycite, which more or less winds up being a hive mind. And it's where the mold come from Resident Evil 7. So we find out that that's responsible for that. And basically this whole time, I assume she got her ability, her quote unquote everlasting life through it. Right. That would be the understanding, is how she became her. And she was using it to find a vessel to save her daughter. Right. Now, through doing so, through her research, I mean, she's a very intelligent person. She has found several different things, like, most vessels, quote, become lichens or something else, right? So not every vessel winds up reacting to it the same, much like how the different viruses that Spencer and them create doesn't always affect the same person the same way, right? Depending on the host, depending on how well they come to it, will depend on what happens to
the
them,
reaction,
right? So, right. So stronger people like your tall, I can never get names, tall vampire lady,
Lady Dimitrescu.
Lady Dimitrescu had a better reaction than others did. Heisenberg actually had a very positive reaction to it. So in doing so, but even they were all just pawns, I guess you can say, in her game to try to find a vessel for her daughter's soul, her daughter's consciousness, is I think what they said. They can restore. They basically found out through the Megamycites, right?
Yeah,
that they can store her consciousness and put it into a vessel. That hence her trying to save her daughter's life.
Yeah, and I thought that was pretty interesting that this Megamycite is. It's some sort of fungal growth, right? And Miranda just happened to stumble upon it in a cave. And I think that's how she describes it in her notes. She just happens to discover it. And it collects the consciousness of dead people, which is where in the game you see Ethan actually shows up in that consciousness with Evelyn. And she's like, "You're here because you're dead." Like,
which was amazing, by the way. That whole thing was like, when I saw that little girl, I was like, "Oh my God, is that Evelyn?"
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Was fantastic.
Yeah. It's in that. I mean, that's a whole nother section that we'll get into for sure, because that was pretty wild. But yeah. The Megamycite is still kind of a mystery to me. Like, I know it's this fungal growth. I know it. Like you said, I think hive mind is a great explanation for it. But how Miranda was able to control it instead of it controlling her was kind of interesting, I guess.
Well, did it though? Did she, or did it let her? Because
Sure.
if you're this fungal thing, right, and you have no interaction with anything, no one's found you in a while, your best, I mean, I'm just thinking like as an intelligent being, I guess, would if you show this person this power that they can have, they desperately need to save their life,
Yeah.
you're not so much letting her control you as much as you're letting her get you what you want.
Yeah. Yep.
That's how I at least thought of it when it
Yeah,
came to something like
for
that,
sure.
right?
Yep.
Now clearly she had some kind of control over something, like, or it was protecting her by letting her control it.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
it's a
There was
whole
a mutual
thing.
there was a mutual benefit there.
Correct. So that's my understanding of how it went. And at some point in time during this, and I'm trying to, and it's been a few days, I'm still trying to put the pieces together. So anybody out there, feel free, please either tell me what you're thinking, correct me if you see me being wrong anywhere. I'm here for the lore and the love of it. So let me know.
Yeah.
Spencer clearly found out about it, whether she reached out to him because she's still trying to get help. She's still trying to do these things to save her daughter. So I don't know if she reached out to him or he reached out to her, because somehow they found each other, though, more or less, right? And he started learning under her about this,
Yep.
right? Because Spencer, as we know, he is trying to play God in the sense of he's trying to manipulate mankind's evolution. As to where, like, Wesker was trying to be a god, Spencer was trying to play God, and I feel like that's very different. I feel like those two are very different things. You can play God without trying to become a god. Wesker wanted to become a god and control the world. Very, very, in my opinion, different things, right?
That's
not that one's better than the other.
It's a little murky, but yeah, I definitely see it.
Like Spencer wanted to manipulate the human evolution. He didn't necessarily want to become this almighty powerful being. As to where Wesker wanted to become the almighty powerful being, a god.
Yeah, it's you're looking at all for one versus one for all, you know?
Right. Not that either one's good for anybody, of course.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not that either of them are good things, but differences. And that's why Spencer, did what he did. And he made a very big point, and I like this. This is something I was a big fan of, to basically cut ties with her, saying, look, I think I'm going to go this route because I think a virus is going to be easier to spread, which is also why we don't see the mold everywhere as it is. We don't see them. Basically, this is the reason we're seeing them for the quote unquote first time, is it just now got, I mean, it's to Louisiana, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Right. Which is probably where Chris from Resident Evil 7 first found about it, or knows about it. He found it, like, this thing popped up Louisiana, all these reports, all this new stuff. So that's why he was, him and his team, which apparently he's not working for the BSAA anymore.
That was going to be a question. So we don't know exactly when he split ties with BSAA, correct?
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot about Chris. We still don't know that. Everybody, I'm sure, wants more answers to. We got a couple things. Like, we picked up on a few things, or you can at least assume a few things, but we don't have hardcore answers yet.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay with it, for the simple fact that this was more of the Winter story. This was more Ethan, Mia, Rose's story. And I'm hoping we either get DLC that'll maybe answer some of those questions about Chris, or just let's get us Resident Evil 9.
Yeah.
And because he's going to that BSAA. He is not happy.
Yeah.
But so back to
more
Spencer
stuff we
and
can
Miranda.
get into later.
yeah, of course. So Spencer and Miranda cut ties, Spencer cut ties from Miranda. And he says it's because he finds more value in speediness of a virus versus what she showed him. And I mean, Spencer is a smart person, so I'm not saying he's wrong, but he also could have seen a greater danger in something that he didn't want to mess with when it came to this.
Yeah, it was also they wanted different things from this.
Yes.
To where, like you said, he wanted to, he wanted to guide mankind's evolution, where she was very, she had this single-minded focus on, I don't care, I just want to save my daughter. Like, I really don't give a shit about anything else. My daughter's the only thing that matters. And he saw that, he's like, yeah, I want bigger things for this. Like,
correct.
Best of luck to you, but this is the path I'm going.
Right. This isn't going to help me in the case I need to, but good luck for you. And I do appreciate all the teachings I've learned, to the extent to where I'm going to use the family's the symbol that was discovered there as our symbol for our company that I'm going to rightfully name Umbrella, which is now we know the evolution of where we got the symbol of Umbrella.
Yeah.
Which was really cool.
That was, and because I thought even seeing like this, like even months ago, we're seeing the trailers and we see the Umbrella logo and it's on all this like these ancient murals and these pedestals. And I'm like, this is way before Spencer. So we're going to see either like the origins of Umbrella, like how Umbrella like truly started, or we're going to find out that like stuff happened before Spencer. Right.
Correct.
And it's very interesting that, I don't know how it all came together. These 4 bloodlines had this logo for the Umbrella, and like you said, that's where they got the idea. I think it's a very cool way to spin that. And even in Spencer's letter, the way that he was writing for a second, I thought it was going to end like I thought they were lovers for a moment. And I was like, were they like husband and wife for a while? Like, what the heck? Do they have
that
some
like cheesy?
Yeah, I was like, what is happening? Like now we're just taking the connections to a completely different level. Right. But no, they were just teacher and student.
Yeah, I thought they did that. They handled that pretty well, especially I mean, considering how young Spencer was when he worked under her. I mean, the dude's intelligent. I mean, look at what he's done. So he's definitely smart enough to know what he's doing, whether it's knowing that what she was doing wasn't going to help his progress. And it probably wasn't, again, because if you look at the spread of what she has, it did. I mean, not only was it not very good, but it didn't do anything beneficial at all, period, other than make monsters. Right. Yeah. I mean, the closest thing to anything, I guess, would be Evelyn. And even she was something else entirely, but she also aged too quickly. She had an aging process, which caused a lot of issues, which at that point,
No, I was just going to say the Evelyn connection was interesting because like you just kind of know her as a BOW in 7. Like it's just this child BOW, and to my knowledge, I don't think we really got a whole lot more than that, other than she was being transported and Mia was kind of like her handler.
Yep.
But in this one we find out that it's actually I guess for lack of a better term, like a defective clone of Miranda's daughter Ava. Like so basically it wasn't 100% her daughter.
The vessel was not what? How did Miranda always say to everybody? The vessel was not a
compatible or
compatible, yeah. Which is interesting because I'm trying to remember, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I swear I read something in a letter and something that someone reached out to Miranda about what she was doing, and or vice versa. Miranda reached out to them and gave a sample of the mega mycites, whatever, and that's how Evelyn got created. Because someone reached out to her.
Yes, you're right. They basically offered like, hey, we want to try and help save your daughter.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah. Yep.
That's not what they wanted to do. But, that's what has to be said to get what you need, that's what has to be said to get what you need. Yep. Because there are more, I mean, you got to remember, Umbrella broke down. When was Code Veronica? It broke down a long time ago, well before Resident Evil 7 took place, right? And Evelyn was created well after the Umbrella, the original Umbrella, was gone. So it wasn't Umbrella. So whatever BOW network was trying to help her out, I mean, created Evelyn, more or less, right? Which Mia was, of course, working for. Which brings us to an interesting point about that whole thing. I was absolutely mind blown and was just wowed when I was found out that Ethan died at the beginning of Resident Evil 7.
Yeah.
Absolutely blew my mind. And I was so happy because I didn't see it coming. Yeah. And it makes sense. Everything makes sense now. There's no more joking about, just staple your hand together. It makes everything makes sense with him and why he is the way that he is.
And 100%. Because I think in 7, there were a lot of jokes like, oh yeah, he just cut off his hand and stapled it back on, and the fluid just makes everything better. Right. But then in this one, it kind of went a lot further because a lot happens to him. He gets, those 2 fingers bit off. Then he
away.
Right off the bat, he gets his entire right hand cut off that he proceeds to grab, put back on. And my favorite part of that, when he puts the liquid back on, it sews his jacket sleeve back together as well. And I was like, okay, now we're getting into that Capcom goofiness. Which wasn't like, it didn't break the game for me or whatever, but I was like, okay, now we're getting a little goofy.
Right.
So like you said, it does make sense because you see him take that giant fall from the tower. A lot happens, or even the hooks, taking him down from the hooks. Oh, that was...
Well, and think about it in Resident Evil, even in Resident Evil 7,
Yeah.
if you messed up during the beginning of the game and Jack caught you, he chopped your leg off with a shovel.
Yeah.
Like straight up, poof.
Yep.
So like and I've said it several times while I was playing 8, like this man has taken more beatings, and I've never seen I've never seen somebody get brutalized as much as him. That's actually part of the story, because there's a difference between you playing and you just getting attacked and stuff happening. That's
for
not
sure.
supposed to happen, but it happens, right? Versus no, this man legit is getting wrecked in the game.
Yep. He got his heart torn out.
Yes. Yeah, he legit got his heart torn out. And I honestly, I applauded them because I thought he was dead for sure. And I was like, wow, they just killed off Ethan. Touche. Like, well done. Yeah. But it led into why Ethan was the way that he is. And he's a molded.
And Mia's the one that Mia knew this the whole time.
She's a molded too. I don't care what anything says. I guarantee she's a mold. Guarantee it. Think about it. How many times was she infected? Okay, very first thing to think about, you're playing as Ethan in 7, right?
Yes.
First time you see Maya, she tries to attack you. How do you stop her from attacking you?
You kill her.
You kill her. She's a molded. Convince me otherwise. Because she also clearly had a child with Ethan, which, in my opinion, is something that they wanted to do, because you have now molded Ethan, molded Mia, the perfect combination to make a vessel using this stuff for what she wants, right? Yeah. Which is also why Rose can be taken apart, literally taken apart, and like why everybody's so scared of Rose is because she is literally the birth product of that.
Yeah. I've got a few things that I want to bring up. So I guess first, because they mentioned Rose being broke up into the 4 parts, and she crystallizes, like it's these white crystals that you see throughout the game. Like at one point you see a huge cavern of these crystals, and you collect the fragments like all throughout the game too, right? But in 7, I think it was in the DLC, it was I forget.
It's Zoe, right?
Yeah, it was the Zoe DLC that involves those crystals as well. So do you have any insight there as far as the significance?
I think the crystallization is how it's like a preserving aspect of the virus, or not, it's not a virus, of the fungal, whatever you want to call it itself, right? Yeah. I think that's a big part of it, because I think that's one of the reasons Zoe winds up living in the DLC, which I'm pretty sure that's canon. I'm pretty sure the Zoe DLC is canon. So I think and I could be wrong. I don't know if there was any scientific method about it in anything I read. But I think it's just some kind of preserving aspect of it. As much as it can. Doesn't always work, I'm sure. But that's my guess. That's why she can live separated. Rose can live separated, because it's preserving her body-ish, right? And her consciousness is clearly in the hive mind of things, and that's why her body can be separated and do whatever to, because her consciousness is there, right?
Sure.
Which is very crazy to think about, especially when it comes to like someone like Ethan who died in Resident Evil 7. He's clearly I think the reason Mia says that he's special is not so much just because of his body, but it was because he could, I'm going to pull something and it's going to be crazy and no one's going to get the reference but me. Okay. So hear me out. Well, you might get it. So Full Metal Alchemist, okay, Brotherhood, they're towards the end. There's a scene where you have Pride having basically a conversation inside of his head with Kimberly, right? And they make a point in stating that how can Kimberly keep his self, more or less, his own self, when he's surrounded by tons of soul. Like, you shouldn't be able to. Like, it's like a hive mind, right? Same kind of concept with Ethan here. Like, he's special because he can separate himself from the hive in terms of his consciousness. Sure. But he doesn't necessarily realize that's what he's doing, but he can, which is why he's always there. right? Which is why he's always, whether it's because in 7 it was all about finding Mia, and that's what drove him to make sure like he kept that consciousness. And now in 8 it was Rose. You know, he had a driving force that allowed him to keep his self,
keeps him grounded.
Yes, that other people just don't have, that the people in the village just don't have, that, you know, that's just how that is. It's kind of like the same thing with like the girls and that become flies, right? That whole thing is a whole weird aspect in and of itself. I'm pretty sure they didn't keep themselves. I'm pretty sure they're dead. That is just the hive at that point, just because of how they are. But I think that's what makes Ethan special. I think of all the things, when Mia's talking about he's special, it's not just because, he can't quote unquote die. It's because he's so strong-willed that he can separate himself from the hive itself. And the reason I keep saying hive is they bring that up. They bring up a point of stating that this mega whatever is essentially one nervous system, hive mind, that controls everything. Kind of like, if I don't know if you ever played Resident Evil 4, and a little bit of this is in Resident Evil 5, Las Plagas, which is what Sadler uses to control the villagers and everybody in Resident Evil 4. It's the same kind of concept, but I don't think, like, as to where they were controlled by Sadler itself via the Plaga itself, I don't think Miranda is necessarily controlling them. I mean, she might have something, but I don't think she's necessarily controlling them, because if she was, she wouldn't have to, like, kill this person here and there and whatnot, right?
Sure.
It's more of the hive mind frame.
Okay.
Whoosh.
Right. No, I'm with you, man. It's I will say one other thing about Ethan that it just seems odd, and maybe it just ties into what you just said. Like, wouldn't this man, like, I don't know, question something? Like, if he thinks that he doesn't know that he died, right? He has no idea that he died and that he's a molded, but still, like, getting your hand cut off and just like putting it back. Like, don't you have some sort of idea, like, okay, maybe something's off about me. Maybe something's not right.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's definitely, that could easily be just a simple plot hole that, you know, is.
And I, sorry, I don't want to just like keep saying like, oh, this is a plot hole. This is a plot hole.
You're fine.
But also, how does Mia even know that Ethan is a molded? Like, how does she have this secret about him?
Because I think she knows, because she is one, because remember how many times Evelyn was in her head. She knows a lot more about this, primarily probably because of Evelyn. I mean, Evelyn's the whole reason that Ethan knows. Like, Evelyn tells Ethan, right? Like, hey, dummy, don't you know? Don't you remember? Yeah. You know, you're dead. Like, that was amazing scine, by the way.
It was very good.
Just to see her again was great. And because, like, yes, her body's dead because of, before us destroying it, it just shows it's the consciousness.
Yes.
That matters.
Yeah, the consciousness is in
that's
there.
That's where it's all about, is that consciousness. And I think Mia knows because Evelyn knows, because Evelyn, I mean, Mia's a molded. I don't care. Mia's absolutely a molded. Like, do you agree with me on that end of it?
Yeah, I mean, the logic. I mean, when I say logic as far as, you know, a zombie game can go, but yeah, it makes sense. I definitely see where that could be the case.
So, and I think that's also part of the hive mind mentality, is like, Mia knows because she's part of that hive mind.
Okay.
Like, and now. Right. As far as Ethan not questioning it, that is a good question. I absolutely agree. Like, if I chop my hand off, it's like, all right, well, we're good.
Yeah.
I'd probably be like, that's probably not normal.
Yeah.
And especially within, like, I know they'd say they didn't like to talk about it, and Ethan apparently tried to keep talking about it within that 2-year span of them living in Europe. You know, I would get the fact that, like, okay, during Resident Evil 7, you don't really care. Like, yeah, you might question, but you know, it's not priority right now. It's either surviving and finding Mia. During Resident Evil 8, not priority, finding Rose, whatever, right? But during that 2-year span, maybe I would think about it a little bit. Like, I'd just go to the kitchen and just be like, and just see, like, how does this work?
Interesting.
Like, you're right. And you know what, again, maybe if someone who's watching this, listening to this, knows and has your own theory about that, I am all ears about anybody's theories, because this is what I love. And I love hearing everything about it, whether it's right, wrong. Like, it's
just fun to talk about.
It is. Like, when Resident Evil 5 came out and I played it, and I still talk about it to this day. My favorite part of Resident Evil 5 isn't even the game. Like, the game's good, but they have this whole biography essentially of the Resident Evil like universe between the beginning and that game, and like how it all happened, like with the flower they found in Africa, that Spencer found in Africa, that started it all, that did all this. Like, I read that whole thing and was just fascinated by the amount of information we got from that. So this is, if you have any other thoughts, please let me know. So that's my story, at least as far as I can think of, for Ethan and his aspect of things, for what happened in the game, how he is, why he is how he is, who Mia is, what Rose is. I also think that I when I beat the game, I initially was like, oh my God, is that Rose? That better not be Rose, because if so, she's like 16, and I do not want a 16-year freaking time skip, right? I was about to be like, I do not want this right now. It would just, because who the hell knows? I mean, Chris is just an old guy at that point. You know what I mean? Like, so and then I thought about it. Yeah, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, just to give context, if people or if they haven't seen it, or just to recap, depending on when people are listening to it. So you beat the game, Ethan's dead, Chris rides into the sunset with Mia. Totally wasn't his idea or anything like that. But
he's so frustrated in that helicopter. Like, he had a couple scenes up in that helicopter. I was like, okay. I don't want to take it away from Rose, but one thing I wanted to mention was BSAA. Yes. And just because I only want to bring it up because it comes before that end credit scene. So before you even land, I think it is before you land as Chris, when you switch from playing as Ethan to playing as Chris. You see a BSAA helicopter fly in, and you see that they're like dropping people down, like basically trying to fight the metamycite or whatever, or megamycite. Sorry, what it is at this point, the big M word, the big M. So we see them doing that, and Chris is like, oh, what are they doing? They shouldn't be here, like all this stuff, and basically they get taken down without any trouble from the fungus, right? Like, it just slaps down the helicopter. I assume that it just kills the people, and everyone's on their way. Fast forward to after the game, Chris has Ethan has beat Miranda. Chris gets away with Rose and Mia. They're all in the helicopter, and one of Chris's teammates is like, hey boss, you want to take a look at this? And they take off the helmet of one of the BSAA soldiers, and you see it's a BOW. Yeah, it's a BOW. It looks like a zombie. Like it. Absolutely. So, and just so people realize what happened. So Ethan winds up beating Mother Miranda, or you wind up beating Mother Miranda. And Chris wound up prior, while Ethan is talking to Evelyn in this consciousness, you play as Chris, and you're going through just hunting down things until you find the heart of the big M, and you end with Chris. By the way, that whole scene was badass. Like, when we got to play as Chris, I was fucking like pumped.
Yeah, like tearing. I mean, I don't know what it was like on standard, but at least on casual, I'm melting things.
Yeah, you're just running through things because you're geared. I mean, you're Chris Redfield. You're geared for this shit. You know what you're doing, right? And Chris Redfield was following Mother Miranda the whole time. That's why which I called that, by the way, that Mia was not Mia, and it was a clone of Mia. Absolutely called that. So that happened.
To a degree, it was Miranda.
It was Mother Miranda.
Yeah. So not a clone. She was just a mimic. Miranda was a mimic. Pretty much.
Miranda was a mimic. And Mother Miranda was also, I'm pretty sure, the old lady. That's why she showed that off.
That was really cool.
That was cool. So Chris, you're playing as Chris. You do all that stuff, right? And you get the bomb, and Ethan gets back up, does his stuff, and then you go to save Ethan because you find that Mia tells you that he's special, and you go find him, and you never get to see his face, but he takes the bomb out of Chris's hand and says, just save my family, because Ethan's like, I'm done with this shit. I want to do it. Whatever, right? Blows up. That's how we get to the helicopter scene that you were just discussing. Yep. We see the BOW that one of Chris's soldiers is talking about, and you can clearly tell by this point, at least, that I'm 90% sure Chris isn't working for anybody but himself. He has a team, but he's taking shit into his own hands. What happened in Resident Evil 6 has really really played a toll on him and what's going on with him. And I don't think he's done taking orders from any kind of thing. He's doing him right now.
Which is a little interesting because in 7, he had this new umbrella logo, this blue umbrella, right?
Right.
And we have no trace of that in 8 whatsoever.
Now, there's been a 2-year gap between now and then.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume something has happened and we will learn about that. I legit think we'll learn more about Chris's past in either a DLC or a next game. I think that's the route we go now, is finding more out about that, right? But it's interesting to see that Chris worked for the BSAA for a very long time. Like, he was never like head honcho, but he worked for them for a very, very long time. He was up there in ranks, but again, he was never big up there. So at some point in time, something has happened. And like in Resident Evil 6, he had some shit happen. So there's a flashback scene where he was working with people, including this dude named Pierce, and his whole team basically got killed right in front of him, and he couldn't do anything about it. Really fucked him up. He became a drunk, tried to forget it. Pierce winds up finding him because more shit's happening in Resident Evil 6, and they need him back on the team. Like, look, we need you. I never thought I'd find Chris Redfield drunk at a bar, blah, 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 blah. They bring him back. And Chris is like, okay, whatever. Winds up working for him again. And the same fucking thing happens to him again. His team dies. And this time, Pierce also winds up getting like his arm chopped off. And he infects himself with, at the time, what is called the C virus. Becomes super mutated, but he saves Chris in doing so, right? So Chris has just had enough at this point. Like, he's lost a lot of people, which is why when he lost Ethan, it was kind of a bigger hit for him. Because he just loses people. And he's just kind of tired of losing people, right? Like, I would be. So that's why I think he's on his own, and he's clearly not happy because at some point in time after he has left, I'm not sure what happened between 6 and 7 and so on, but if that was a BOW, which it most certainly was because they called it out in the game, I'm thinking that those soldiers, quotation marks, were sent there not so much just to neutralize what's happening. If you know anything about BOW people who are trying to make, sell, whatever, they don't just throw these things in there to stop what's going on. I think they were testing how well the soldiers that they have created can hold up against a threat.
Yeah.
And I mean, clearly it didn't do too well, at least not for that guy. So I think that was a test. I think that because we saw one helicopter.
Yeah, I think 2. Because it
2? Okay.
It looked like it was going to hit the other one.
So I really think that was more of it's kind of like the Raccoon City incident. Like, all this shit happened. They released Nemesis in Raccoon City as a test. Yes, to exterminate the STARS members, but it was also as a test to see what they have created, how far it can go. So I think that's what that was. And I think we'll get a really big, we'll get into that really big, hopefully in the next game and or DLC. Because Chris already stated something about going to the BSAA. Oh yeah. Like, he's already headed that way. Like, that's the next goal.
Yeah. These BOWs didn't turn out so well.
No.
They've got the guy with the clipboard on the helicopter, like, all right, let's see how well these guys do.
Right.
And then they just see the helicopter crash, they're like, F, not good.
Yes.
You know,
like, yeah. Yes, exactly. That's that. Fail. Yes, right. Fail. So I think that's why Chris is the way that he is. I mean, because if you look at him in this game, like, he's very jaded. I think that's the best word I could use for him. Like he's very jaded. He doesn't come off as a super friendly guy, right? Like, especially to Ethan.
No, not at all.
And I think he was trying to keep Ethan out of it because at the time, I don't think he knew Ethan wasn't molded, right? He knew everybody else was. No. I don't think he knew Ethan wasn't molded. So he's trying to save Ethan by trying to tell Ethan to back the hell off. This is like we get it. We know why, but you need to back off because this is bigger than what you can think.
Yeah.
Right. Without knowing that Ethan is actually part of it. So I think that's why he's so jaded. And again, Chris's past isn't very bright. Like, that man has been through probably more shit than I know. He's been through more shit than even like Leon. And Leon's been through some shit. But Chris has been through, like, his story in the series is just crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that's just why he is the way he is. I think that's why he's so off. He's just tired. He's just tired of the shit. And that's why he separated from this and that. And if he sees something that needs taken care of, he's got his team. So now that's my at least interpretation of Chris.
Yes.
Right? Jump to the end. We see a older Rose, which they didn't give us an age. I'm saying 16. She looks in that age group ish, right? I mean, maybe even younger, maybe 13. I don't know. She seems like a young
I'd say
adult.
13, 14, if I had to take a guess.
Okay. Right.
If there's money on the line, my official bet is 14.
So my first initial reaction was, well, I don't want a 14-year-old or a 14-year skip, right? But if you remember, she's essentially a better Evelyn, a more cloned, a more advanced. I mean, she is the quote unquote, I guess, as Mother Miranda would call it, the perfect vessel, which that could also play into a tie, by the way. She ages, if it's anything like Evelyn, 75% faster. So I don't know what 14 years times 7.75 would necessarily be, but I'm going to guess a couple years. I'm going to say we probably have a 1 or 2 year jump in time versus a 14-year jump in time, which I'm totally comfortable with.
Yep.
But that also leads me to believe that Rose, I'm going to guess, is still tied to the mold and is still probably a vessel for Eva, however you say her daughter's name was. I think Eva is in there somewhere. I think Mother Miranda succeeded to an extent. And I think that's going to play a big role because, yes, the mega mycites or whatever are, as far as we're aware, blown up, gone.
Sure.
Correct? But if that was to kill all the mold, Mia wouldn't be around anymore. So that's to say that if there was something out there with a consciousness in it, even though that's not part of it anymore, it's now its own independent aspect of things. I think Miranda succeeded to an extent. And that's why they're keeping a close eye on Rose. Not only because she's probably a very powerful BOW in and of herself.
Yeah.
But if Mother Miranda did succeed, that's going to play into an interesting mess to see, like, hey, like, imagine if your daughter woke up and found out, like, your mom went through all this work to keep your conscious and now she's dead. Like,
sure.
I feel like we're going to get a very big ordeal. And I think that was the whole premise of 7 and 8.
Just teeing this up.
Was to tee us up to a really big backstory to a very big Resident Evil event that's going to bring, hopefully, a lot of people back that we won't get to see.
A lot of people back to the battlefield.
I'm allowed to have dreams. Let me have this.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I feel like we know at least Ethan Winter's story is over.
Yes.
But the aftermath is now what we have to look forward to, and we know Chris is on his way to BSAA and he's pissed. Who knows who else we'll see, especially with this older Rose. It's very interesting. I know that you mentioned that she's basically under watch by Chris and Chris's team or whatever. But I wonder if, and I think I brought this to you originally, I kind of got the impression that she's not like a hostage, but I think they're like training her to like be on their team.
You think she's going to be, well, okay. Yeah, I could see.
But maybe that makes Chris a hypocrite then.
Right. That's my thing. Like,
so maybe not. I don't know.
Now, that being said, we don't know if that's Chris's team looking after her to begin with.
That's true.
She could have been passed off to a different team because I don't know if Chris's team has enough time to necessarily sit there and babysit, quote unquote. Right. Not to say that it's not. I'm not saying it's not. But again, all theories. It very well could be a different team that maybe Chris trusts. Maybe it's something that one of these other people have got in touch with, someone else is better with all this jazz. I don't know. Maybe Leon made his own organization. I don't know.
Everyone just has their own team now.
Right. Everyone has their own team. But I think she's under watch. I think she's under watch for the BOW aspect. I mean, wouldn't you want to have that under watch? You don't want just some quote unquote better at Mega Evelyn just walking about, because you see how people get when she gets mad. Yeah. Like that dude was terrified.
Yeah. Yep.
But to your point, if it was handed off, look, greed is greed, and Resident Evil is filled with it. So if someone thinks that they can use her because they know she is super strong, and she is super strong, I am 100% absolute believe she is a very, very strong BOW.
Sure.
Strong enough to where even Heisenberg knew that that was the key to beating Miranda. Miranda is clearly a very strong BOW. So, I mean, about 40 shotgun bullets did her in, but you know, she's still a very strong BOW. I think that's going to be I think she's going to be a very key point into the story. And I think all of this is really going to help us progress into that aspect of that. I am so excited now to see where they go because it is so open now.
Yeah,
like
it is
very open.
Yep. Very much opens up. Yeah, I'm looking forward to DLC. Because think about the past 4 years, we've had a Resident Evil game every single year. You know,
yes, whether they be a remake of a great game, which I'm okay with, and I yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
yep.
I mean, we've had 7, 2, 3, and now Village. So who knows if that means, okay, now we're really going to, now that we've set up the story, we're going to take our time. So it's going to be 2 or 3 years until you get 9 or whatever comes out, and maybe they have some DLC to tide us over. Who knows? I really don't know, but I'm excited for what the future holds for sure.
Absolutely. I'm super stoked because now that the winter story is done, I guess, I mean, I know they said fathers, but I feel like the winter story more or less, other than Rose, I think, I think them for the most part, they're done. And this can go into a lot of different areas. It would be really cool if we got a DLC that was Chris going to the BSAA. We got a bit more on him, and it's in between that time gap between when Rose was a child and her where she's at now.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that would have happened between then. I don't think he's going to wait 2 years to go visit the BSAA. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's pretty on it.
And then at that point, we have not only a post-Village Chris story that we want to see with the BSAA, we have a pre-Village Chris story that we still want to see as far as this new Umbrella, him living BSAA. Like, we still have no idea how that all played out.
That Chris could still have been a clone, by the way. We don't know. The Chris from Resident Evil 7 very well could still have been a clone from the Mega Mysites. Okay, I'm just saying. It's not confirmed that it's not.
Miranda was Chris the whole time.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, think about it. He dropped the gun that knew it would kill Evelyn. Who else would know better than Mother Miranda? I'm just
Who
saying.
else but Miranda?
So, yeah, overall, I was extremely satisfied with the story, extremely satisfied with the connection we've gotten so far, and I'm super, super excited for what could lie ahead. I mean, Capcom, look, you're doing great things. This has been a very fun ride. Not only was the game just super fun, by the way, like, I know we're going to do our review here separately, but the game was just super fun, well done, all across the board. The connections were great, like, hats off to you. I can't explain to you how excited I am for the next game. Yeah,
I'm right there with you, man. I'm excited that I made it through this one as fast as I did. I wanted to watch your entire playthrough on stream, but then I was like, no, I'm gonna stop watching. I'm gonna play it on my own. Although watching the first part of your stream helped me out quite a bit. I went through the castle and the puppet house like it was nothing. So,
and yeah, and anybody listening, like, seriously, if there are some dots I'm not connecting, please let me know. I am all for learning. I am not perfect. I love this series. I think I'm pretty knowledgeable on it, but I easily can miss things. So I always want to know what I can, and I want any information I can. So if I have missed something or you have different theories, whether you're in our Discord, you're messaging us through the YouTube chat, anything, let me know, because I would love to hear them.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, hopefully we'll get some more story beats. I mean, I know this is a little ambitious, but E3 is only a month away. Who knows what kind of DLC announcements we could get, you know? It could be the rated, and I'm going to wrap this up. This will be the last thing I say. The rate at Capcom that they push out DLC is so quick. Think about Monster Hunter and how fast that they're pushing out content for Monster Hunter Rise. even if it's just the announcement of the DLC, I'd be completely okay. Like, let us know DLC's on the way. Hey, thanks for the great sales numbers for the first month of Village being out. Here's what you have to look forward to in the next year.
Absolutely. 100%. Yep. Please show us a roadmap.
Yeah. The Resident Evil roadmap. I love it. Any closing remarks on the story before we wrap this one up?
No, I'm pretty sure I pretty much hit everything I wanted to talk about I can think of that I've like held in.
Yeah.
So it was really nice to release all this thought process. Yep. But no, I'm pretty good. And like I said, please, anybody out there, connect some dots that I might not have, let me know.
Easy enough. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to episode 90 on our Resident Evil story discussion. Really more Tim's. I was just more of the, I was just enjoying the ride. It's always exciting to hear Tim's so passionate about Resident Evil. I like getting him talking about it. So thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening at, whether it's Spotify, YouTube, Apple, wherever you're listening. Throw us a follow. That way you can be updated on our future episodes. We'll have a Resident Evil one shortly after this one, just to give you a little heads up there. But until next time, take it easy, and we'll talk to you soon. Later.
Thanks for listening to FAMcast. Be sure to subscribe for the latest episodes and follow us on Twitch, Twitter, and our other socials at For All Manakind.